welcome to Super Geeks special news Star Trek Discovery reaction and review episode 1 of this show. Season 2, episode 1, Brother, aired the other night. Actually, it was last night. And with us today is Larry Nemecek, who is Larry. You're pretty much the canon guy, aren't you?
Boom, boom. Well, I wouldn't say that, but I used to be keeper of the canon back when people cared about that. In a lot of ways,
still care
professionally.
Apparently.
Oh yeah. Well, well, we can get into this, but it's amazing I'm not a typical fan in many ways. I get that, but it's still amazing to wake up some days and see what the loud 10% of the internet's talking about and go, where did you even come up with that? I know we have new fans, but I thought this was settled like 5-10 years ago, much less 20 or 30. So anyway,
they need people like you to help clarify and tell them that the canon's wrong. I'm just kidding. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to go around and like each person give your general impression and thoughts.
How about if we just say who we are, where we're from, and get started? Because we only
can do that too.
Well, that's easy.
Well, Carlos, didn't you want to do it differently this time? That's fine. All right. With us today, as usual, is Carlos Pedraza. How you doing, Carlos? Carlos?
He has refused to.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to press my button. I'm
I thought
with Monitor and also was a fan film writer and producer for Star Trek: Hidden Frontier and New Voyages.
Okay, well, I just want to know how you were doing. And were you doing all right, except for the key problem? Just kidding. And Larry, obviously, you're doing good, right?
I'm good. Dr. Trek is doing good.
Oh, I forgot you use that moniker sometimes. Cool. And Raul, also known as Zeb. How you doing today?
Good, great. A little anxious.
Joining us as another guest for the first time is my friend Lars. How you doing, Lars?
I'm doing well. Thanks very much. I would class myself more as an armchair historian for all things Star Trek. I call myself a purist, but that changes from day to day, I guess.
Hey, you were excited to see the season 2 premiere of Discovery, so you're a little better than some of the purists out there. All right, and Sean, how you doing, Sean?
Hey, George, doing great. I like Star Trek. That's my whole bio.
That can get you shot sometimes.
And he's not wearing any pants.
It's a tough, nerdy
neighborhood
if it gets you shot.
Yeah, this is a pantless episode for Sean. So
yeah, lots of Klingons.
Isn't it always a pantless episode for Sean?
Yeah, I try.
Honestly, I failed to ask, so
he volunteered that.
That's on you, sir. That's on you.
Yeah, just remember, guys, this is a dog-eat-dog universe, and I'm wearing resequenced protein underwear.
Okay, good to know.
Okay,
have we covered everybody? We covered everybody, right?
Because Larry's our special guest tonight, I'm going to start with him on this question. Larry, what did you think of the premiere of Star Trek Discovery Season 2, Brother?
I liked it.
Okay.
Moving on.
I just wanted to do No, it was
Next,
no,
man after my own heart.
Yeah, no. I think what's shocking is even not having like previewed it or reviewed it earlier or something. There have been so many, whether it's a leak or it's just promo, teases, whatever you want to call it, that it kind of unspooled most of the way I expected, but there were still some really cute moments along the way. But overall, tone-wise, I just get back. I mean, even aside from the fact that for the last year and a half, I've had critiques of Discovery so far, but you can look at their whole first season and see how it reflects the really labored birthing pains, right? Brian coming in, Brian going away, having a staff there, having the staff not leave with him, but one by one go away and new people be hired in. And it was just, chaotic. And it had it was 9 months longer debuting than they thought, and having a creative staff, not quite as much turmoil, but figuring out a way. Anytime you get Star Trek up and running again after a long gap, like the motion picture or like the Next Generation, there's always going to be a shakedown cruise, right? And sometimes it's bumpier than at other times, but it always has that big bar of expectation. So the outside world doesn't care that you were in labor for 72 weeks. If weeks were as hours, Captain. It doesn't care that it was labored like that. So don't ask me where these things come from. But my point is, yes, a lot of people watch the first 2 or 3. Oh, it's too dark for me. Oh, this is horrible. This is mean. The people
and the
are all
Klingons
weird and wicked, and the Klingon and all that. And then and there's still things lingering that I wish they were baked in the cake that I don't know what they're going to do about it. But overall, they really did wind up with a lot of fanboys and girls on staff. Although there's a segment of the audience that they would never believe that, and they landed. I mean, the amazing thing is that the whole thing landed as well as it did. If it had been anything but Star Trek, and if it had been anything but launching a new arm, high-profile arm like CBS was doing with All Access, they would have pulled the plug on that, that kind of a situation weeks in and would have walked away. But you couldn't do that with this. It had to be landed. It had to come home. It had to make good. It had to launch that new service. And they stuck with it and spent a ton of money and then lived to fight another season. And they did. And even though they let go of Aaron Harberts and Gretchen Berg, they still had, it was still going to be, you knew it was going to be more stable the second season, the sophomore year. Even though the old joke about all Star Trek series after the original are that way, this was like a double whammy, and part of
because they had didn't they have behind the scenes drama with the people complaining about the treatment they were getting, the cast. I kept hearing rumors that there was a lot of turmoil.
Well, the 2 showrunners that wound up finishing out the first year wound up being let go 5 episodes in, because they had an internal writing staff. Right. People that had been all...
Oh, right. They were, yelling at the staff. Yeah.
Yeah. And that kind of thing. And going way over budget. And having seen Brothers, I was like, wow. And I've seen this universal reaction of, it looks so cinematic. And I guess I need to redefine my terms, because to me, I thought cinematic these days meant you threw a ton of money into CGI. And the first year had a lot of that. And this year felt like it was more old school Trek to me in a lot standard camera angles and standard... things, but
you don't get to big glossy buttons.
Larry, you don't get to do this every day, but I have to correct you. It's Brother. The reason why it's distinctive is there's actually another episode of Star Trek.
Oh, right.
Did called Brothers, and I'm like, oh my god, there's a difference with an S, but yeah.
No, that was just my. I'm just lisping.
Data and Laura actually were in this episode. Right. We just missed it. So,
exactly.
And Dr. Soong, aging Dr. Soong. Oh, I dropped the emotion chip.
Whoops!
I couldn't resist. It wasn't really. I really care.
And now it's the size of a quarter, like it was in Generations.
Right, the incredible shrinking, or incredible expanding.
Right, emotion chip.
We have a bigger prop budget.
I'm going to get in a little bit more in a moment here, but I just wanted to say what you said. That I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, probably not realizing it when you said showrunners. I think that the biggest problem with season 1 is that the whole damn thing felt like it was made by committee, and it didn't seem to have any particular voice or direction to it. Now, mind you, I enjoyed it for what it was, but I had serious qualms with it as well. So that's my take on that. I think there was just too many chefs in the kitchen, as it were.
Well, that may be
names,
true.
My thing is that always.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Larry.
Oh, I just said real quick that this is an old tired metaphor I've used for ages. To me, I mean, people watch the opening credits and there's 47 producers and but that's the way shows are now. It wasn't so much that and some of those were overlapping. Like a lot of the people you saw the names, they were no longer working there, but they were contractually there. They were overlapping and all that. What it really was, it wasn't so much about 15 people all in the room together. It was really, to me, it was more like if you got in a cab in LA and drove to New York, and your driver changed 3 times. And the car never stopped.
I gotcha. Who got you there?
Yeah. Right. It's like, didn't we pull over at least? No, we never stopped moving. It was like a moving target of things shifting as it went along. And you could tell the tone was totally in 3 phases at least. Yeah. The beginning, in the middle, and then the ending. So
it was all over the place. I couldn't agree with you more.
Now, speaking of that, since we want to focus on this episode, not just, it's great. I love hearing your perspective on the show in general. But what did you think of the changes as kind of spinning off of what you just said about the cab driver thing, where who started it, who ended it? What do you think of this Pike? Because Pike's important to the whole mythos. And what do you think of the direction they're going with him being the temporary captain and his sort of how did they put it? His sort of joint custody with Saru.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, the canon boy in me that wants gaps filled. If this is going to be finding out what happened between 2255 and 2265. I mean, there is 10 years, and Pike is this anomaly. You had 1 hour of Jeff Hunter, and then Sean Kinney playing him in a wheelchair, and then you have the Jeff Greenwood in Kelvin, which doesn't matter.
Chris? Oh yeah, you're right.
Which is a nice story about fake people. So wipe that out, and then come back here. There's tons of room that's open, and even having Rebecca Romaine play number one and all that, and all the hullabaloo about Spock. The beard and all that, it's just crazy. I saw the beard pictures and I went, oh, well, he's obviously been where he can't shave, which is now what they've said. I mean, the ability of people to I wish I could have the energy people are like melting down over. Do you think they're going things?
Do you think they're going to name drop her when she appears in episode 4? Because by the way, she appears at number 1. Because she is going to be on episode 4. That's the one where she comes on screen.
They'll give her a name? That would be awesome if they do, but
I'm hoping they don't.
Hold on. We talked about this with Dayton, but they actually did name her in one of the canon novels by David Mack.
There's no such thing as a canon novel.
No, they declared that these are canon.
No, there's no such thing as it. They've said that before, and they always disavow it.
Wait, Larry would actually be the best one.
I'm just going to say these are like the closest canon adjacent that novels have ever been, but still no cigar.
I could say that there was an announcement that they were
cutting.
What if we find out that number 1 is actually her name? Like
I made that joke the other day. I thought you were. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Meanwhile, back at the episode.
Yeah.
Number 4. No, I thought there were a lot of cute moments. There's obviously more banter. I mean, a couple of the marching orders I thought use the friggin' bridge crew finally, and they did that.
I love the way they handled that.
That was amazing. I loved it too.
Sound off. I loved that. It was great.
Yeah, and it was like, okay, serving 2 functions there, and
your rank doesn't matter. We're all bridge crew basically. I love that.
I didn't know if the whole thing. It was cool to see a Saurian, and they've done some throwbacks. Like I didn't get it right off, but Non, the engineer that came over from the
Barzan. Yep.
From the entry was supposed to be a Barzan complete with the little.
Yeah, we were talking about that before you came in. Yeah.
And what was it? And then she's Tignataro or Jet Reno, which is a hysterical name for an engineer.
That's a great space name.
Love that name.
Reno. All of her patients. There's like a Bolian and a Tellarite and she's name dropping all the standard races.
Yep.
And you're like, okay. Didn't have to spin makeup on them. Just put them out there in a fuzzy light with laying on their back out of camera range and just call them 15 things. And
I love that. That was so TOS. Just I mean, just saving the budget right there. Perfect.
Well, but then you saw then that thing where she's running for 15 miles through things falling on her, and I kept thinking, wow, they're spending a lot of money here. Oh, here's where it started to pile up, which was fun. There were a couple that they're cool, but when I first saw them in the promos early on, like they wanted to show those landing pods, I felt like watching the pod race in episode 1 again from Star Wars. Like, oh, here's the video game part. Here's what they'll license out for the models in the video game. A little bit, but and then the smart ass. It was nice seeing the red shirt. The minute they all got in their things, I'm like, they are not going to have the red shirt die.
Right.
And then he was the asshole. The science guy was the asshole. So
Larry. I want to read something. Larry, before I get to everybody else giving their opinion. I read this to everybody earlier. I want to just get your opinion of this quote from Vulture, this site, because it was pretty funny. So I want to see what you think of this. It's a modern thing. It has to do with spinning off what you said about the red shirt.
Mm-hmm.
1 second here. Because I shared this with our mutual friend, Oren Ashkenazi. I know that you know Oren.
Yeah.
He's been on. He met Carlos. They had an interesting debate about Pike on one episode of our show. So this is what they said. This is just a quote from them. It says,
I'm almost curious how you debate anything about Pike, but okay. There's so little of it.
Oh, Oren feels that Pike is the white... guy that has to take charge of all the, anyways. So he says, this is the article, they say, now large adult son, that's the science officer, the Spock replacement. Now large adult son exists seemingly for 2 reasons. He makes Pike look like a far better white guy by comparison and establishes a new norm for the franchise. This time around, it won't be red shirts who die for stupid reasons. It'll be smug mansplainers who can't get over a woman being smarter and better than him at their job. So yeah, large adult son refuses to listen to Burnham's warnings about steering the pods, despite the fact that she literally test piloted them, and he gets hit by debris and explodes as a result. Bye.
Well, not being one that likes to stereotype anybody, even undesirables, I'd like to think that, not all the the white guys in the show are that way. So I mean, Pike's not that way. So he got
Pike
anyway.
is a team player. For me, it seems like the best idea wins. He's not about him being right, like Lorca.
It was yeah, and it was funny too. Some show 2 or 3 weeks ago, I said something about they were talking about a little bit here the Stamets and Culber thing, and how Wilson Cruz has been out there promoting, and everybody upset about the kill your gays trope. No, we're going to bring him back. Oh, how's that going to happen? Well, it's sci-fi. I get a clue, but he's promoting. He's out front. He's going to cons and appearances. And then they said, well, what do you think about that? And I said, oh, you know what? It's going to be a whole season of him just being in old home movies.
I just hope he's not. I just don't hope they don't go down that road.
It's going to be more than
They're
that.
not
But then when I saw
to.
that scene, it's the high-tech home video.
No,
But
what I'm
still,
hoping.
like, oh, he's watching a home video of him. It's like, no, that can't be all it is. I was only kidding, guys.
My only fear is that they're going to go with the whole, because Stamets did navigate through the universes, that we're not going to get the mirror Colbert. I hope they don't go there. It's just too easy.
I'm sure.
Well,
I'm pretty sure they won't. But back at the episode.
Right. I was going to say about that. I think they kind of foreshadowed that in the in season at the end of season 1 with it's the mycelium.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
That's where isn't that where he's? I mean, isn't that where he is? Isn't that where we assume he is right now?
We don't know. But
well, that's why I wondered about the
if we
green.
assumed.
I still wonder about the green spore falling on Tilly's shoulder.
Correct.
I thought,
Exactly.
it's either Tinkerbell or it's Dr. Culber in there.
Right.
all right. Let me now ask Carlos your thoughts on the episode.
Well, I thought it was a really strong season opener, and I feel like whatever missteps, and I think Larry, you're right that there were pretty much 3 sort of distinct voices in the first episode or first season, and yet while they were distinct, I didn't feel they were contradictory. I didn't feel like they were dissonant.
I meant it
feel
more like
that
phases,
apart from
not to interrupt you, but not voices, but phases. But yeah,
phases,
yeah.
And I feel like, and I've said this before, I feel like apart from the original series, this is probably the strongest first season of any Star Trek series. Even with its birthing pains, because the birthing pains in TNG kind of showed. I mean, you saw really weak episodes. You saw a lot of hackneyed thinking and stuff in that first season of TNG. That here you just saw, you saw a season that held together pretty well, beginning to end. And this second season opener, I think, definitely learns from what worked and what didn't quite work as well in the first season, and I think it got off to a great start. I think that having the war lifted off as a burden on the show literally makes it a lighter show while still serious, and I think that was the right time for that to happen in the development of the show. I think when we look back at Star Trek Discovery, we're going to see the transition from the darkness of season 1 into the sort of lighter, adventurous tone that we're seeing in coming up in season 2 will make complete sense.
And spinning off what you just said, Carlos, I agree completely. His Pike's line to Burnham, let's have a little fun along the way, ruffle a few feathers. I think that was trying to like a wink to the audience saying, we get it, we hear you guys, let's go back to the fun and the adventure and the hope. Not only that, but I feel as though I love the whole theme of Pike having that guilt of how they couldn't get back in time to help with the war, and his respect and reverence for the bridge crew because he knows they're war veterans. I completely, as a veteran myself, I just like the way they handle that. That Pike feels, it's like, of course he would want to go and help. Kirk would too, everybody. But they couldn't because they were too far out on their mission. And then Starfleet told them to stay back, just in case. But, I mean, I love that part.
Well, that was one of the surprises to me that they made. That was a choice that was a surprise to me because rather than, I mean, I wasn't even thinking. I mean, a lot of people go, well, where was the Enterprise D? Where was the Enterprise during the Dominion War? A century later, it had never occurred to me to go, where was the Pike's Enterprise during the Klingon War? For one thing, it was barely a year long, whatever it was. But for them to come out and say we weren't in the front lines when everything was so desperate and Earth was. They were at Pluto.
They were too far away.
Earth's doorstep. They were too. For once, they weren't the only ship in the quadrant.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, they're
good.
just trope busting all.
Oh, you mean
Right.
was that Enterprise B jab there from General?
No, that was
Pick one.
that's
Pick
a-
any of them.
It's
Oh, yeah,
a
yeah.
franchise. The Enterprise is the only ship
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
area.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
I was surprised they took the time to specify that they weren't even involved in the Klingon War. Now, if that's
Not just that, but use it.
Yeah, to
the
use
guilt.
it and then bring that, and make that his guilt. That's the level. That's the thread, the texture there. Then that's cool. I mean, it fit. But to me, it was like, wow, you had to really be out there. Although when he's standing in front, now I didn't know exactly the scale, but I kept assuming when they first threw up the 7 lights, and he goes and does that interactive thing they do where they're throwing, Spock could do it when he was a boy apparently, but that thing where that little gizmo for their interface where they grab things and throw them.
Yeah, the art thing.
Right.
Yeah, the art thing. When he went up and got the light that they said, here's the only one we've been able to get a fix on, and went to it. The one he went to felt like they were trying to show like a 3/4 view of the Milky Way, the whole galaxy. And I'm like, wow, if it's way over there, then we're going outside the galaxy. But then earlier on, they had said, we've got these 7 signals over a 30,000 light year span. And that's, the galaxy from extreme to extreme in the view, the disk of the galaxy is 100,000. So basically you're saying these things are over a third of the galaxy. But I mean, there was some things flying fast and loose past there. And I was like, well, now wait, what are being literal? Because you can tell that they've switching gears a little bit when they're throwing all the graphics porn up there, like his service record and all that stuff. And there's an Okuda award in there now. People have found there's all kinds
people
of
are
funny
screenshotting
stuff.
it and doing all that.
Yeah, I'm doing that. I haven't had time to yet, or I would be, but
I was going to.
Well, I'll tell you
But-
what the biggest canon confirmation of the whole episode was in that service record. Robert April is mentioned for the very first time in canon.
Oh, that was from another
Not
episode.
true.
Yeah.
No,
He
they
was
had him in a list
mentioned
of
in
captains.
season
But
1.
Yeah, he was.
Did you notice at some point
that's right,
early
they
on?
did. Never mind.
I think when I wasn't going to tweet spoilers because I knew that, but one of the things there are 2 or 3 random things.
I forgot to mention, by the way, everybody,
Wait,
we're
let him
talking
finish, let him
spoilers.
finish.
No, I'm just
Larry,
going to say
go-
we're talking
go ahead and
spoilers. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, but this has been long enough now. No, as they're flying by, at some point, somebody had mention of saying, "Yes, we have the whole crew of 203 or 302, whatever it was," and I was like, "Yes, that was the crew number for the original."
That's right.
Right.
I thought that's it.
Yes. Meaning Pike, April Pike time. Anyway, there were 2 or 3 little bit, and the other cool thing that I smiled was the fact that they thought to include this, like they have no janitors or no automated room cleanup. Like ever since Lorca had been gone, here's
Right.
one of his fortune cookie papers. But then for it to be the
Was
Cage
thinking
reference,
the same thing.
yeah,
I-
it's triple reference. It's like a Cage reference, but also it's going to be a metaphor or a subtext for April's. For Pike's arc.
Before
I also felt that it was going to be it's foreshadowing for Culbert as well. That's what I felt. Not only
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think, and I wouldn't even be surprised, even though I don't think it's going to happen, but it could, because remember, it was Lorca's cookie, Lorca's ready room, that it could be about Lorca.
it could be about it could be about either Culbert or Pike's foreshadowing of what happens to him in his future fate, or it could be both. Because the ending part of that fortune does seem to feel a bit like they're talking about maybe Culbert's going to come back. I want to mention one other thing while we're on that subject is, did anyone else feel like when Stamets was talking about that opera where at the end they thrust the dagger in, that he was contemplating suicide until he talked him out of it?
For a very brief second I did, and then I slapped myself and said, no. But yeah, I will admit that for a moment I did.
I think definitely they wanted you to feel his despair.
Right.
And I think that worked. I think it worked. I think him accepting the position at the Vulcan Science Academy, which made me wonder, actually, is he the first human that was ever invited to join the faculty there?
You know what I'm thinking
That's
too
a
is
choice.
maybe he wanted to go there to learn from the Vulcans to purge the emotions he's having a hard time with.
I think you're reading too much into it.
I don't think I am.
I don't know. That's kind of very Star Trek-y.
Yeah.
No,
but
because
it-
his
look
whole
Look at the
point was
little
now
kid
I
who emulated
understand-
Data, remember?
For the Academy that
Yeah, but
rejects humans
His whole
attending or part Vulcans
But
attending.
his whole
to have a
point
human
in
faculty.
talking about the opera was coming to understand the importance of feelings.
That's
so
very true.
It doesn't make sense for him to go to Vulcan.
All
to
right, I'll
lose this
concede
thing
on
he
that
just
one,
spent
yeah.
so much time
That
coming
was
to
his
understand.
this simple feeling moment there.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much. Okay, now Lars, Mr. Lars, what did you think? I know you had a big Star Trek viewing party. You posted on Facebook, but tell us your feelings about this episode and your feelings about the show and where it's headed.
Well, let's say that my feelings of the episode are generally positive. I did pick up on a couple of, as Larry had mentioned, kind of a Star Wars vibe going on, including early on in the episode, the sound of a almost a TIE fighter going by. And everybody heard it. Everybody in the room heard it. And
Yeah, I remember that.
yeah, and then of course with the landing pods that just like, I was like, I even made the comment that, oh my goodness, I half expect to see Slave One fly by, and the thing is that what I really liked was they felt more cohesive. This episode definitely gave the show a more cohesive feel. I did like Anson Mount, his portrayal of Captain.
I loved him. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we didn't see much with Jeffrey Hunter, and I'm not a huge fan of Bruce Greenwood's Pike performance. So definitely an improvement in my eyes. What really kind of stuck out for me is that I know this is probably going to be a little bit of an unpopular dissension.
Just say it.
Is that CBS dramas feel like CBS dramas. It almost feels like this is a modular show. You almost could take one puzzle piece out and bring in something from NCIS and plug it in and be like, oh, it's the same show,
You mean like when Tyler turned out to be a Klingon? I think you might be right.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, okay, Ash Tyler being Vulk was Star Trek's worst kept secret.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
Absolutely worst kept secret. But the thing is that initially I was not a fan of the series. I just didn't feel like it was Trek. Remember, I mean, much like everybody else here, I grew up with it being the prime universe that we saw through TOS, TNG, DS9, Voyager, Enterprise, and this, I kept wanting to, it always comes to my head. I always remember Brick from Anchorman looking over like, this isn't Star Trek. Yeah. And so where it took me is I was sitting there and I was actually very fortunate to be able to watch the episode with Rico Anderson and Ryan T. Husk and Lisa Hansel, and we all just sat there and I was like, you know what? I got to sit there and open my eyes a little bit because a lot of, and not to drag the whole Axanar thing into it, but that shut me down for a long time when it came to Trek. And believe it or not, it was Discovery that brought me back. So
you rediscovered Star Trek. That's kind of fitting.
Yeah, I did. I mean, and it is very apropos. The thing is that I wanted to really feel positive about it, so I was rip roaring and ready to go, and I was generally impressed with everything. The only comment I made during the episode was when we were talking about Spock. I was like, Great. We have hipster Spock. Okay, let's move on. Or the nobody wanted him on Enterprise. So I always just imagine this old guy standing over there shaking his fist. Get off my ship, you damn whippersnappers!
I have to say one thing about what you just said before you continue. If you look at the actual episode, The Cage, in the fullest. When Spock's firing that laser, just anything he's doing, this is without any reason. This is before they really defined Spock as a race, Vulcans as a race of non-emotion. He's all emotional. So we've seen him emotional in the Pike era before. So this is a Spock that has not quite gotten to where he's trying to control himself better from his human half. There's a lot of room there to wiggle with.
This is the women.
There is, but remember, anybody who has read or listened to Leonard Nimoy's "I Am Spock," one thing he actually talked about that quite a bit, and the reason why Spock was more emotional in the cage was that Gene Roddenberry said to him, we want Spock to be kind of a polar opposite to his colleagues, because everybody, Pike and all of the bridge crew, they were all clean cut 60s guys, haircuts you could set your watch to. They were serious. There was no joviality.
Steely-eyed rocket men, missile men.
Yeah, that's right. And so Spock had to be the opposite to them. And then when Jeffrey Hunter was out and they reshot the new pilot with William Shatner. Shatner, of course, was more gregarious. So Nimoy just said, well, you know what? I'm going to go follow the same thing. I'm going to go opposite. And that's how he defined the emotionlessness of the Vulcan race.
Well, and plus number one was supposed to be glacial, right? Which was going to be one of the things they were going to develop. And so when she went out of the equation, those qualities were in a vacuum. They were there for him to absorb and make that more what a Vulcan was.
Oh, absolutely. So, moving towards where we're going with the series, everybody was saying, well, this whole thing with how could Sarek and Amanda Grayson have this child that they adopted and it never pop up anywhere else? And we're like, well, you know what? Look, if we let Star Trek V slide, we can let this go and go too.
Well, the other thing is, listen to the way they both talk about Spock. Both Burnham and Sarek talk about Spock. They haven't talked to him in years. Right. This is not a close family.
Sarek
well, he was off in the 5-year mission, though.
That doesn't mean you wouldn't have talked to him.
Well, right. There's
I'm saying
in
in Journey to Babel,
Gillette,
they mentioned it's been 14. Is it 14 years? Yeah.
He wasn't accepting his Gillette. Go ahead.
There's always been this idea of estrangement in the Spock Sarek relationship, Cybok relationship, and now Burnham relationship. So I don't see as this being anything new. Where have people been for the last 52 plus years now?
My thing for the way Spock, young Spock, interacted with Burnham, I felt, like the room consensus was, somebody even blurted out, the old line from The Shining, red rum.
I was thinking the same thing.
Oh my goodness. Like, Spock is creepy. Like, we got, all sorts of things like, come play with us, Spock. It's like
he was like Damien Spock.
Oh yeah, like Damien. I was like,
well, no wonder the Vulcan kids beat him up. It wasn't just that he was human; he was human and or half human and creepy. So,
but that was in the JJ Universe. We don't know that actually happened in this one. I'm just kidding.
Well, I think it's been well established that Spock was bullied.
I'm talking about yesteryear. Yeah.
He's talking about yesteryear, not JJ.
Yeah. Okay.
So
that was the animated thing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So when we got to the things I really loved about the episode, one, again, as I said before, it felt like the series became more cohesive. It felt like it started to have more of that Star Trek adventure spirit.
Gaunt?
The whole thing is that season 1 to me felt like Enterprise season 3, because you never knew. You're thinking, oh, okay, we made it through this episode. The next one, please be okay. Please. Okay.
Please be a little lighter.
Yeah, like
a little lighter.
Are we going to, in the next episode, are we going to see Lorca and Burnham travel back in time and steal a Dodge truck? What are we going to do here? But again, it felt like it just pulled everything back in line. You saw the disconnection from Stamets. You saw that Tilly, despite the fact that she is still the gibbering mess that she has been the entire series, at least you can start to see a backbone forming in that character. And and then you go forward onto.
She's very manic. She's very, and I think that a lot of people who are manic can relate to her.
Yeah. But again, we started to see a crew feeling like a crew. You know, we saw Saru being that straight backbone. You know, he was like either neither here nor there, but you knew he was part of the framework. And just when we got to the end of it, of course, you know, when they get on to the Hiawatha and, you know, the attitude, the just, you know, Tig Notaro's character being this whole matter of fact, smart mouth, you know, in your face, like of course I'm a brilliant, you know, like you had any doubt, you know. Yeah, you're
But
lucky.
what was surprising was she didn't play for laughs. She was actually an interesting, realistic character.
But that's the thing, is that even though she wasn't trying to be funny, she was funny, and that's the beautiful part about it.
I love when they cast comedians for a role and don't say, "Let's make this character a laugh for the week." You know what I mean?
It automatically and to me lent gravitas to her character, and I'm already like, man, she better be back.
I agree.
Yeah, I hope she's around for a while.
You wonder,
let me. Oh, Larry, were you going to say something? I'm sorry.
Well, and here's something else I want to throw in. This is the thing that I've been shocked. I saw a little bit about this, but even the bigger thing, the thing I'm shocked has not blown up the inner tubes, because when I first they had it so long ago, maybe that's why on those early promos is the whole thing with Linus the Saurian in the little gag in the elevator in the
Is that his name? Is it officially Linus?
Well, she said hi, Linus. So
so that's it.
She didn't call him Schroeder.
Saurian boogers are no joke, folks. Just letting you know.
But my point was that was such a dose of Seth MacFarlane Orville humor. It was like, I wonder, was that a little
I did wonder that too. Yeah.
Haha, Orville, look, we can do this too, but we choose not to. I mean, that's very
that's how I felt.
I
actually thought the same thing. Yep.
Exactly.
I didn't think about it till later on because there's the scene they showed 6 months ago and everybody had their initial or whatever it was reaction. They've had it already.
Well, for me, it would have been like one of those moments in the original series where you'd hear that little song stinger where it went dun 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 dun. It was that kind of a moment.
Thank you, everybody.
Everybody sing.
Brought me back to my childhood.
Because the rest of the humor in the episode was very organic, and they got back to Star Trek or just good dramatic moment with a flip line goes by, and it makes you smile, and the people actually makes them. They're not doing a stand-up routine or a comedy, not doing pratfalls. They're the jokes
like
when the
were
doctor
there, but
walks
nearly all
by
of them
and throws
worked.
that thing over the shoulder, or they're snapping, they're snarking at each other at times, which feels very realistic. But it's like, oh look, they actually live together. They didn't all show up to shoot 8 hours or 12 hours and then go home tonight. They've actually lived together and worked together.
You owe me a simile.
What's funny is you guys saying that reminded me of a friend of ours that Oren said, "Oh, now what is this? This Pike is the king of the quips. Is that what we're supposed to think now?" I'm like, "Oh man, come on." It works. I like this characterization.
He has a point of view, and I think that's fine. I think we're overworking the plumbing there.
He's put the years in, and he's put in the seniority.
If you want to find problems with Pike, you're going to find problems with Pike or any other character. It's really what it comes down to. That's my take on that.
Speaking of which, Sean, it's your turn. What is your views of the episode? You've jumped in, but give us your feeling about the episode, how you feel it's going to progress. What's up?
Well, I still want to know what the deal with the gray smoke monster. Wait a minute, that's a different show entirely. Let's get back to Discovery season 2.
Hey, Sean, I just want to say real quick, I like the South Park nod at the end where they pull in the giant, piece of the asteroid, and it totally had the feel of the episode where Randy Marsh takes the biggest dump in the world, and he's so proud of it. Just like, oh
that
my
puts a whole new spin on the line. That's the power of math, people.
I love that part. I love that part. I love Tilly and Stamets. Yep.
Brings me to one thing I want to throw out to you guys and tell me what you think, because maybe this is just me, and please realize that this is coming from I love Tilly. I love her. But I feel like they just pushed her a little too much in this episode. Like they were like, "Oh wow, people really love Tilly. Let's do a lot of Tilly."
No,
like
the whole pinky thing. It's not very commanding finger, but it's the pinky.
No, I mean the lines were great. The lines were great. It's actually, like it's exactly what Stam had said to her.
They needed to reel her back in a little more,
but say fewer things.
Well, you know what though? Here's the thing.
I experience this every day, Carlos. I'm manic just like Tilly, so I can relate.
Okay, I felt with Tilly. I'll get into my entire analysis of the episode in a moment, but I felt with Tilly actually. This was completely opposite what you thought, Carlos. This was the least annoying she was. And mind you, I like Tilly too.
No, they all chuckled. You notice how they panned everybody's face when she was saying all that blabbering to Pike about the finger scan? And everybody they weren't like annoyed. Like even Suro kind of gave a, but it was kind of like a, she's so cute. We love her.
Well, go ahead and finish, Sean.
But that's the thing is that she, I always felt that it was a little bit, her, youthful exuberance was a little bit too over the top in the first scene. I thought she seemed much more mature in this episode, much more on peer with the rest of her crewmates, and I appreciated that about her, and I thought she was great. So that's my take on her. The episode overall, I don't want to be that guy, but this is. I think this is one of the best episodes of Star Trek I've ever seen, to be honest. Overall,
I actually agree.
I mean, it's my favorite episode of Next Generation is the Inner Light, and my favorite episode of Deep Space Nine is In the Pale Moonlight. So I'm not really big on these type of
standard episodes.
Yeah, right. Well, I'm not big on these big type of flashy episodes, type thing. I'm much more to the more cerebral episodes. But I absolutely loved this episode. I was look, as we've discussed before. I felt season one. It felt very disjointed to me. It felt very story by committee. It felt like a lot of stories either were wrapped up too quickly, or that they really didn't give the kind of climax that I would have hoped for.
Not to interrupt, but obviously it has to. Story by committee. I want to just jump in and say, I suddenly realized you're right, because I felt like they were trying to find that balance between the JJ and the action popularity and old Trek.
I felt like they were trying to shove a lot of tropes and a lot of ideas into episodes at times, and that everybody had their own ideas of what they're trying to squeeze into an episode is what way it came off. Mind you, I did enjoy it. I would have liked it more, and I think Larry is absolutely correct, and I think Carlos is correct about this too. I think we've all said this, is that as far as first seasons go, outside of TOS, it was by far leaps and bounds better than any of them. And I'm so surprised at how this first episode of the second season, it seems so is refined. What I'm looking for. I mean, it's like a different show to me. It seems like they've found their footing finally. I absolutely loved Pike. I loved Anson Mount's Pike. I loved Anson Mount when he was on Hell on Wheels. I thought he was amazing.
I loved Anson Mount on Inhumans, even though it got canceled.
Well, I never watched it, so I couldn't tell you. But
he was Black Bolt. Anyway, it's gone.
So I thought everything. I thought the timing of the joke, it was snark and it was sarcasm, but it was like contemporary for like the way you talk with your coworkers who you've been working for years with, and that they're the people in your family.
The new manager vibe. I got that. Yeah.
It really worked well. I appreciated the whole bridge scene. Again, I'm hoping we're going to get episodes that focus a focus on each character on that bridge, because they were set dressing last year, and it would really be nice for it to be more of an ensemble type thing. I know we're going to get primarily focus on Burnham, Pike, Saru. I get that, and of course Spock. I get that, but I would like to see
Tilly,
right? And I would like to see them do more than like. Than what they do in with when or her only said hailing frequencies open.
Right.
I would like to see more of that from that cast. And it was a nice nod, because it's like they were telling the audience, look, that we recognize that we didn't do this last year. We want to show you this year, and it's drop the rank. He didn't want to hear the rank. He just wanted to hear their names. I thought that was great.
Except notice who did give the rank.
Ariel.
Yeah,
it was
the
Ariel.
robot lady.
And we finally saw Ariam off the bridge. She was one of the people with Tilly in the shuttle
Finally
bay.
saw her talking.
Yes, and
More
she
than
said
two
more than
sentences,
just. I mean, she's really
Right.
good at expressiveness with the way she holds her head. But I was so happy to hear her talk.
Yeah, I agree.
By the way, just a little trivia to throw in while we're bringing that up. I was reading about this. The producers said they changed the actress. They switched her out, and the actress who used to play her last season is now a human, but still on the show. And they changed out because the makeup, and the character herself. The producer said on Twitter, the character is going to have an episode where she exchanges one of her anatomy parts, and I kept thinking, oh God, are they really going to go there? Oh, is it? Or which anatomy are we talking about? But
okay. Boy, oh boy, that leaves a lot to imagination.
I'm just saying that's what they said on Twitter. So
well, let me get back to my overall analysis. I mean,
go ahead.
This I had a very hard time accepting last year. I mean, but look, I know it was Star Trek, but it didn't really, for the most of the season, did not feel like Star Trek. There are 2 or 3 standouts last year that did. This first episode, I was like, we're back. I mean, this had everything going for it as far as I could tell. We had we had character development, we had the inner conflict, we had the space adventure, we had the working as a team and trying to help people. I mean, this was Star Trek, and that's what I loved about it so much. Is like, and it's like the only thing I was sad about was that when I hit the 60-minute mark, I was like, oh, I want more. But I want to talk about the pod scene too. It's like I kind of felt the same way. It's like it was kind of unnecessary, but and I felt like you guys were hearing the Star Trek music earlier for that joke, and I was hearing the scene that Empire Strikes Back when the Millennium Falcon's going to the asteroid field trying to get away with the TIE fighters. That's what that scene felt like to me. So that was. And like the death of Big Mouth Connolly, like who didn't see it coming? But that's would be my only complaint about the episode. Other than that, I thought it was magnificent. I hope this is a foreshadowing of what we can expect for the rest of the season. The show has a voice now, and I'm very, very impressed. Does it?
Well, I think you could be right about that. I think that. Did you guys catch? By the way, it's a minor, stupid little thing. The science officer said he had a roommate who was he said his exact words were, because I've watched it 3 times, part Cation. So apparently, I was like, yeah, Larry, you caught that too?
I was texting with somebody that said, ooh, what would that look like?
I don't know why he brought up the fact of what race she was that had any reason to even be thrown in there, but...
Well, species, not race, but then it was like well,
oh, sorry, you're right, species, correct.
It was, then my mind went to half Cation, ooh, and then I wait, I'm assuming he means half human, half Cation.
Not necessarily. Remember that episode where they talked about...
Half Ognot, half Cation. Oh, yeah!
Well, hold on, do you guys remember...
I want to hear the rest of Larry's question.
Go, Larry, go.
Please.
I was just going to say, then it made me realize that was a human. Was it like speciest to think that the default, since we're so into race and gender now, that the default means if you say it's half Cation, you just assume that the other half was human because human, or do you just say, well, he was a human, so he's just reflecting his own?
He didn't say half. He said part. There's a difference.
Part. Okay.
That could mean anything.
Well, everybody else is intermarrying with their, inter-reproducing everybody else anyway. So, Klingons and Trills and
it's a funny little
Romulans. But no, it was good. But it was another name drop of a
part reducing. Go with that. Try to figure that one out.
Oh God, that would be weird. And so, geez, there's so many things. I loved everything about this episode, and the fact that they talked about how, they said, do not covet thy neighbor's starship when the engineer was looking at I see where Starfleet spent all their pennies. Like, that's why I was trying to figure out, like, I thought the Constitution class was more advanced than Discovery, but apparently it's not. Or it's just a flashy part.
Discovery's brand new, and Constitution...
That is true. They've been out there for several years. That is true.
They've been out for 10 years. 10 years.
Roughly, yeah. And That's true.
But
It's a very good point.
Real quick question about that.
Go ahead.
Haven't we established that the Discovery is specifically a
Like
science
modified?
vessel? Yeah, like a modified science.
But
vessel.
remember, Stamets also was impressed by the stats of the Constitution class.
Well,
You
yeah,
remember?
it's a
So
badass-
No, I mean, we're not talking
It's a
about two
badass
different things,
motherfucker,
guys.
of course
We're
he
talking
is.
about a class that is purpose-built for one thing.
All right,
that's
I agree with you
Discovery.
there. Yep.
And
Exactly.
Constitution, which is built for long-range, long-term exploration, which is a
Right,
whole
exactly.
other thing.
That's
So
true.
that's
Discovery
why it's so
only-
impressive.
Yep. Okay, I agree with you there.
Although what's always got me is how Discovery has another class ship, and if it and the Glenn were the two ships outfitted specifically for spore drive research, what was that?
I
class?
want to throw this out there, Larry, because you're the.
There's
you're
got to
the,
be a USS Crossfield, right?
Right. I mean, that's
well.
that's
Then
where
there's
my brain goes to, but yeah.
Larry,
Which I was always in the camp of it was modified. The whole thing of the oppositely rotating hulls. The minute somebody said that, and then you had the little points that. Now I thought the whole hull rotated. Now apparently it's just the outer skin that rotates. Thank God, which is even wackier. But it's like all anybody has to do is hit one weak point of those connecting bridges. It's like, well, then you've just blown the whole thing. It's like that's even more of a soft spot than like the pylon on most Starfleet vessels that they gradually tried to get rid of. You know what I mean? Like one hit there and you totally disabled it. Well, one hit on those little connecting it's like
it's gone.
It's like your plastic model kit sprues, right? It's like that's all it takes. Bang. That's exactly what I thought of when I saw that. But then anyway, I'm just glad that it's the outer skin that rotates and not the whole damn thing, because that would be a ridiculous waste of inertial damping for all those quarters. And yeah, anyway.
Larry says you're so refined on paying attention to those nitpicks, because it's not nitpicks when it comes to what your job used to be, so you're used to it. Therefore, I will offer this, and I don't think it's too much of an ask for you to observe this, because I think you did pay attention to this. There was one line that Pike said where he says to the tactical officer, I think it's Reese, that's his name, he said, arm phaser. Now, this is the key word, cannons.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not the same. It's not. I don't think that was a misstep in the typing of the script. I think that there's a difference between saying arm phasers. Cannons is what people arguably say is what the Defiant had on Deep Space Nine. It's when you focus on the weapons, the phasers being like really powerful.
Pulse cannons.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so, do you think there was a typo in the writing, or was that actually?
No, I think that was a callback to the. I think weren't they referred to as cannons in the cage?
Enterprise?
Yeah.
I think so. Yes.
And they have.
Did they say that?
Yes,
they did. Phaser. Nothing was a phasers. Hand weapons.
They called it hyperdrive too instead of warp. Just to let you know, just on that one. I watched it the other day, so.
Our time warp factor 7 is what they said.
No, he said
that's actually that is what they said. Time
he did, but he did say get rid of the hyperdrive or whatever. He did say hyperdrive. I'm just letting you know.
On what show are we talking about here?
Star Trek.
The cage.
On the
cage.
The original, yeah.
Cage wackies.
Well, I'm talking about from watching it from the courtroom view from the menagerie.
Anyways,
I know it's
anyway, but back to the episode.
Yeah. Let me just
let me say some of the phasers really quick. If I recall correctly, were there not both? I'm sure of this. Were there not both our standard line like laser beam type phasers and the?
That's an FX thing.
Hold on. What you?
Well, in the original series, weren't there both? Didn't they?
The word phaser was not invented until Where No Man.
No, I know. I'm not talking about the cage.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the original series in general.
They were always beam.
Okay, are we sure with that?
What are you asking? I'm still.
You're right. In I think it was Corbomite maneuver. They fired phasers and they came out.
Visually.
And they did that in Balance of Terror too. Yes, You're right.
Yes, before they standardized everything. Right.
They used the FX
because they hadn't standardized everything yet. I wouldn't read too much into that.
Actually, I think it's more in Balance of Terror when
they may have retconned them for the Blu-ray remasters. They may have
I wouldn't be surprised because it's really that's the only episode where it super stands out in.
I'm everybody who's seen the ending of this episode saw the preview of what's ahead. We do see one shot of Burnham wearing what looks like the early version of the miniskirt science officer. I think the Discovery crew is going to get the new uniforms before the season ends.
I don't. But
she's
and I
wearing
don't
it.
think
She's
she's.
wearing
I don't
it.
think she's wearing the miniskirt. She's wearing civilian
Like
clothes.
non-head, like non was wearing. With
Carlos,
leggings.
I'm kind of one of those. The leggings is irrelevant. They wore the leggings in TOS. It's the JJ that where they didn't. But I'm just saying. I paused it for a second just to look at what she was. Yeah, I think they're going to conform to the new uniforms by the end of the season, based on not just.
I don't.
Hold on, not just based on my opinion, but based on what I saw in the trailer. That's all I'm saying.
I don't think you saw what you think you saw.
I paused it. She's wearing the uniform.
She's wearing a blue skirt, but it's
no,
not
the top's. It's
uniform.
the same uniform. Anyways, go ahead.
I thought she was wearing akin to what Non was wearing throughout her whole time.
That's what I mean, like the early version of, their version of. But it was blue and blue. That's all I'm saying.
Send me the screenshot, and
I will. I'll send it to you after
we'll
the
talk
show.
about it.
And I was looking at it, I'm like, and I saw in other shows, people were like, "Oh my God, look, she's wearing the." That means later they adopt those uniforms, which is normal for Star Trek, as we've seen, for example, from the progression from Generations, when they go to the DS9 uniforms, slowly migrating the Picard. I'm sorry,
but I don't think it's going to happen after the second.
The Riker tuck.
It's too soon. It's too soon.
Right, and I think that very much Discovery wants to stand out on its own.
Exactly.
But they are the same uniforms, just colored differently. You do realize that, right?
Identifying mark.
Yes, George, we realize that, but they have a look. They're going to stick with that look.
Yeah, they're going to. I just don't. Yeah, I don't see them. Look, they brought Pike on. They brought Spock in. They brought the Enterprise here. I don't see them going so far as to completely take away their identity with their uniforms. If they were going to do that, Pike would still be wearing his gold, is what it comes down to.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is actually a good point. But you also have to remember that what he did was the equivalent of how anybody that went over to DS9 in Generations, where they put on the worker jumpsuit. So also beyond when the Pinekirk put on the Yorktown's jumpsuit, because it was their uniforms. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that's totally different.
Yeah, different.
I know. I'm just saying.
So you have to remember the real world is where this stuff is being decided. I know. So we're running out of time. I wanted to run a couple of things past you guys. Number one, did you notice in the upcoming episodes we're going to see the Spore Drive again at least once?
Mm-hmm. I was curious about that. They did mention in Brother singular.
Good job.
They throw it away and they say, the Spore Drives, they even talked about like disassembling the chamber, and because it had been moved, it was like pushed over to the side differently.
Right.
Talking about taking it all away and reconverting this back to a normal engineering, space, and you got back to the old image of the receding, the false perspective bit in the back with the red glow to it kind of thing was back up there with the blast door raised. And all that, and then they, can you get they didn't say old-fashioned warp 7, but they just did a standard, takeoff. Now, obviously, they're gonna do that. Well, they did a spore jump because he says that you never forget your first, which was kind of funny. But that whole thing about how soon is the mega big picture thing is how soon is the Spore Drive going to be boxed up and stored back sometime somewhere next to the Ark of the Covenant? We're never going to talk about this and think about it again because it blew up, and not blew up literally, but
I have a funny feeling, Larry, that the Section 31
toll on.
Go ahead.
No, I was to say it took a toll on, unless one of the threads here is they bring up the whole then about the time you think they've chomped it away, then they jump in and say, "Oh, did you see the mycelial activity? Jumped like we've never seen it before." And it's like, there
was even a mention of a tardigrade.
Yeah, the tardigrade.
There was.
So they're not going to close the lid on this. They're going to keep it around for whatever.
I think they will eventually, but we'll see it used in very limited sets of circumstances.
There are 9 years of difference where they could come to the realization that this is a bad idea to keep this idea going. So they have room.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's
all right, you guys,
time to work that out.
So we're on the last minute of the show as far as trying to keep on an exact time frame. So I really enjoyed this conversation, and I look forward. Larry, I hope you maybe could we have a lot of episodes to go in the future. Rejoin us like midway through, like give us your overall like. Hey,
oh sure, I just overall, I think I jumped in and was real specific at the beginning. But no, in a weird way, this was kind of the show I was expecting, so I wasn't surprised. But I've been I mean, I think they were halfway through last season and knew what they needed to do to quote unquote fix things or settle them down. It's just they were on the Wile E. Coyote Acme rocket shoes, and they couldn't stop until they had stopped, and then they got the chance to take a breath and fix things or refine them or massage things and not look, which is going to include the look of the Klingons, and a lot of other things we hadn't even seen yet. So that in that way, it totally expect, but I still had the nice little surprises. Like I said, the smart ass crewman, the minute he was such a smart ass and went on and on and on and on, and you just wanted to like,
I want to call him cocky, but yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, he's the one that and they took 4 pods out. It's like, well, obviously they're zooming around in the shredded debris field. They're running at 2,000 kph or whatever the hell they were doing, 5,000.
Even the Millennium Falcon didn't want to do those odds, right?
Somebody's gonna get smashed. And I just knew it wasn't Pike and it wasn't Burnham, and I just knew they were gonna tweak people and not have it be the red shirt. So when you have the cocky to some, asshole to others, guy.
Yep, there you go.
He's the 4th. It's going to be him, and it was, and that was they kind of pushed him a little bit at that, and then the her running through how many more minutes can we have of things falling on her as she's got to beam out and can't get a transporter. I mean, that was a classic trope, but
I think
aside from a couple of those things, it was a much more settled Star Trek with all the different vibes combined that we've all been talking about: problem solving, familial feeling back. Throwaway lines that were humanly humor and not labored, all that stuff, and then mysteries to come still. We haven't talked much about the whole Vulcan thing. I thought Mia Kirshner was a great Amanda, and all of that, and that timeline, and weird with the technology of the interface of the art.
Absolutely,
and all that was interesting. Yep. We didn't talk about that, although I think I was the most disappointed there with somebody called the IKEA Vulcan House of Sarek, but that's okay.
I'm going to bring this up.
But overall, it was a great first episode. But that's kind of what I expected, because I knew if it wasn't, then the show was doomed.
Okay,
but
so
I thought, given the people, that this was exactly what they were going to have. Yeah.
So me and Carlos talked about this earlier, and again, don't worry about the time. We're not that much over, and I can edit this. So I'm going to ask you a question, Larry. Okay, it's kind of going to sound like it's coming out of a weird place. You know how Burnham talked about her dark secret with Spock about their past?
No, please don't go.
I'm just going to ask his opinion. This doesn't necessarily have to make the show. I can edit it. Okay. Don't judge me. Don't judge me.
Just ask him.
I honestly think, because it's Discovery, I think they might go there, because it's not... What are the odds, the possibility that they were both adolescents and she helped him through his first bonfire, and that's the dark secret? Is it possible? Do you think they might address this? Sort of a Savick saving the Genesis Spock thing, but it was Burnham?
No, I hear you. I don't think they'll do that. It'll be something else.
Do you think it's possible, though?
Creative. Well, of course it's possible. It's possible.
Well, I mean,
Yeah. She got him drunk for the first time. I mean, it's possible.
Wait, did they actually say that?
It's possible. Blue
Monkey. No. I watched it again before we started, and the line that she uses to describe what happened, it's right at the end of the episode. She says, when she's in his quarters, she says, "I can only pray I don't lose you again."
Okay, I didn't. That's why we watched it, obviously. Okay.
Here's my wacky thing I'd love to happen, and again, Alex Kurtzman did an incredible. They did such a promotional blitz the week before this. Hats off to them, because they went to all these, and they leaked it. They had the daily drip by drip of different angles, and some of the stuff, including Picard's based on the Kelvin movies. No, but okay, fine. But about this episode,
they're talking about the comic, but prelude.
Okay, anyway, this show. I thought they did a great job, but one of the things he said along the way was, and this is where when you're breathing and not like in a chaos, but when you've got time to breathe, he said, yes, one of the big things the fan world revolted to was how, the Cybok thing on steroids. What do you mean he's got a foster sister? We never heard about this before. And he said they decided to take that on and say, Yes. Why have we not
Never
heard
mentioned-
about that in
yeah,
53?
exactly.
And so the arc of this is going to address why he never talked about her. But to me, it's always been easy because it's like he didn't talk about Cybok for ages. But then is Sarek an anomaly among Vulcans? The whole friggin' Vulcan race didn't tell the
They're
Federation
private
they'd been a
people.
member of. They don't tell. Yeah,
They don't go out of their way to say, by the way, James T. Kirk,
McCoy is the
Captain,
first.
I have a
Federation
sister.
Starfleet
She's
doctor
human.
to
By
hear
the
about-
way, I just, you know what I'm saying.
Like Phlox took it with him when he went back when Denobula left the coalition of, I mean, whatever the hell happened between Enterprise and original series. Vulcans never talked about Pon farr. The Vulcans, all those surprise Spock late 60s. Ooh, this is such a cool character, and ooh, the Vulcans are so intriguing. But the reality was, well, they'd been retconned later. They've been members for 100 years. We've known them for 100 years before that. The Vulcans are just freaky about sitting on stuff and not letting, even when they're supposed to be mixing, not letting a lot of their secrets out. And I can totally see
probably one of the best aspects. One of the things I liked the most, and I'm not a major fan of Enterprise anymore. I like Enterprise for what it is, but that was one of the things I liked about Enterprise. Is probably that was the most development of the Vulcans we ever really saw. And yeah,
their war against the
Andorians.
You're right. Yeah, and it established this very private nature that they have. And I'm going to say something about Alex Kurtzman here. That I was at CES last week, and he was actually at the
that 30-minute interview.
Yeah, I was actually in the front row for that. Well, seat behind the front row, and I what was very clear to me from his 30-minute talk there was exactly how enthusiastic he is about this major role that he's been given for the franchise, and the other thing about it too is how receptive he is to fan reactions. They were very clear that and I read this other place too, that like, look, yeah, they dealt with the Klingon hair because honestly of the backlash they received from it, which I found very surprising, because I'm one of these guys that say, you know what, screw the fans, just put something out there that's good, we'll figure it out.
They didn't have hair in the JJ thing either, so they forget that.
Well, yeah, but again, a lot of these same people that are critical of Discovery also didn't like what was going on in the JJ era as well. But the thing about it was, I came from a perspective of going into this first episode where I expected it like you did. I expected it to be good. And it's not so much from what I'd seen in trailers. It's really Kurtzman's enthusiasm and the way he talked about it made me a believer. I got to be honest.
I loved having that 30-minute video out there from 2 or 3 sources, because you get that. You can see that he's not, and that the interviewer needed to be a little bit better, but he took a lot of things. They asked him, and he took a lot of things head on. And
he did.
To not see it quoted, but to see him reacting in the moment, and a couple of kind of uncomfortable, or a quote unquote negative question that wasn't just softballs, and he embraced it and ran with it. But things like that, like, hey, you pay attention to fan reaction, but you deal with it a certain way. You're not a prisoner to it, and you don't become a leaf in the wind. You you take for what you can get, and you pay attention, and maybe you check in now, and then you check back in 3 months and 6 months later, but yeah, you use it. You don't ignore it.
There's an old saying in customer service, when I did a lot of customer service, for every 5 people that are every 10 people that are unhappy with a product, they're going to call and complain and bitch. And for every 20 people, maybe 30 people that are happy, they're not going to go out of their way to say something nice, because they're happy. They don't feel they have to speak up. And I feel like that's the same way when it comes to the fans.
Well, yeah, and I will tell you, I just the last thing I want to say about this is that I went to the Star Trek Discovery page on Facebook yesterday, and I looked at the reactions, the Facebook reactions, and it was 93% positive.
96 on Rotten Tomatoes, by the way, just so you know.
Well, no, I'm not talking about the rating. I'm talking about just the reaction to their post on Facebook. Where you get the emojis, you get the happy, the love, the like, the laughs, the angry faces, that kind of. Okay, so it was 93% positive, but when you looked into the comments, it was flipped. it was 93% negative in the comments. And what it comes down to is that people, it's exactly what you said. It's what you saw in those comments were the typical just angry ranting fans.
They just want to vent. That's all it is.
But
well, and a chunk of it is still about paying for it. It has nothing to do with the content of the show. It's still about paying for streaming or an extra streaming.
It's so silly.
Yeah. That's a whole separate thing we've talked about later on our show many times.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I agree with you. I'm not trying.
It's hard to be out in public in a forum like at a con panel or or an online thread, and it's like getting just to talk about the show itself and sometimes not even anger. There's an awful lot of people who have no idea what streaming is, and they're just confused.
It's it's going to, we talked about this on the show a lot of times. It's going to get better, I hope. Cable is trying to fight back. They're offering things. They call me all the time. They're like, oh, you do this Netflix and all this. Guess what? We have this, and then they offer their price points, and I'm like, yeah, that's not better. But even though do you like sports? Once in a while. Do you like this? Do you like that? Okay, well, here's this. You pay only $17 a month. Really? Because if I pay for Netflix, CBS All Access, and even DC Universe, I'm getting 3 things for the price of what you're offering. I don't know. See what I'm saying? Like, it's gonna evolve. They're gonna get to the point where they figure this out. So
what's going to evolve is the fact that the audience is going to evolve. It's what's going to happen.
And the content, too. How long do you want to stick around? Like Carlos pointed out to me earlier, why did you offer instead of the next time promo, you offer the whole season ahead? Because you want to make sure people know, stay subscribed. This is what's coming. Just stick it out.
When they really get hashtag Picard series rolling and they really get Lower Decks,
definitely.
And when they really get Section 31, then that thing about I'm going to watch, the whole thing, even watch it 3 months, then turn it off and don't pay for it. But even that will go away eventually. But
exactly.
All the other networks are going to be CBS, ABC, Disney's going there. I saw an interview with an NBC guy that said, I wish we had started on this 3 years ago like they did. So it's just, then it'll reaggregate again. It'll keep shifting, but it's happening faster.
Right.
Larry,
20 years don't go by.
Larry, I'm going to keep harassing you to come on the show once in a while when we do the Discovery reactions. If you can come on, great. If you can't, and you just ignore my instant messages.
I can do. Yeah, we'll love to come back sometime. Sure.
Awesome. So we want to wrap up the show. It's good to have you, Larry. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. There's a reason you were invited, because you are the man. And so I'm going to wrap this up. So, Carlos, where can people find you? I know you said it in the beginning, but where can people find you on social media? He missed that button again. It's always when I ask him, too.
Oh, sorry about that. I am on axemonitor.com, on the Axe Monitor Facebook group, and on Twitter at Axemonitor and at C. Pedraza.
Awesome. And Larry, where would you prefer people go to find out what's going on with you?
Well, my basic website's LarryNemecek.com, and everything Trekland is there. Larry Nemecek's Trekland is the major Facebook page, and at Larry Nemecek on Twitter and YouTube. Larry Nemecek's Trekland is also Instagram. But Portal47.net is Portal47, my online and live mini-con all year long. And very big, I want to make sure everybody hears about my Trekland Treks, which is a one-day version of film site touring that's customized to folks. And I have an event coming up. I know it's short notice for here, but it's President's Day weekend in LA. All these are in LA. It's called LA Away Days, like away team. But we're doing it's a pre-planned one day or both days Trek location film sites going on. It's President's Day weekend, which is you can get all that at LarryNemecek.com or Trekland.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, sounds pretty cool. And Raul, Larry, we call Raul our silent witness. No, I just call him that. I just coined that phrase actually because he hasn't watched the new episode, but he likes to be here anyways, just to offer his little, which we like him for that.
Bad jokes.
He got a seat in the dugout tonight.
Yeah, exactly.
Best hot dogs are here. What are you talking about?
So like the alternate juror back there in the back of the box.
Exactly.
Oh, Raul's our Guy Fleegman. He's just jazzed about
Lars.
Do you even have a last name?
He does not.
I do not. It just says it.
I could give you his last name, but then I'd have to kill you.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, guys, I'm sorry. John and Rod would shoot me if I didn't mention the Trek Files podcast on roddenberry.com that I host.
No need to be shot.
Duh.
You can mention it.
And 1 p.m. Tuesdays is my Trekland Tuesdays live on Facebook that I do with a topic.
I will try to link as much of this as I can
Okay.
on all the venues, and I will actually. And Lars, thank you for joining us as well. You had some good comments. I know that you have a podcast and you do some things. Pimp it. What's going on, buddy?
Well, you can find me anytime at Treknicity.com or redshirtgeeks.tv. And you can also find me on Instagram, Lars D the Photo Kiwi, and at Redshirt Geeks on Twitter.
Cool. And Sean, I know that you keep talking about doing this blog. Other than that, you haven't gotten it going yet. But do you have anything you want to offer as far as like? Do you want people to find you, or do you just want to stay non-doxable? Do you want to stay non-doxable, or what do you want?
Well, let's put it this way: people are basically finding it easy to find me lately. So whatever, it's all good. I'm over at X Monitor.
I know where you live.
Well, I'm at the.
He's in your bushes.
Yeah, usually in the bushes of love. So I'm over at the X Monitor. You can find me regularly at the X Monitor.
He's not lying. He was in the bushes.
One time I was. Yep.
2 times.
X Monitor Facebook group, and of course over various groups on Facebook, Star Trek groups causing trouble for the most part. But yeah, that's me. But yeah, that's about it.
You are the troublemaker. All right, I want to thank everyone for joining
us. You're the guy. See,
that's the guy.
I thought it was thousands out there getting paid from Macedonia, but apparently it was just you.
It's all him. He's that guy, like Trump. If Sean was elected, it would have been. Anyways, I'm not going to get political.
Did I tell you about the pizzerias and Hillary Clinton?
Oh man. God. Hey. Okay, so just let everybody know, because this is going to air back to back with our next regular episode tomorrow. Subspace Radio. Oh, they're awesome. They are syndicating us now. You guys shout out. So yeah, check us out. I'll link everything. Other than that, for people that don't see the links, you'll be good. And I want to thank Larry again for joining us. And hopefully, as Discovery is, going forward to season 2, we will get Larry's feedback if he comes on and joins us. So thank you very much. And
Trek well, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Larry, stick around. I'm just going to close the show, but stick around for just a minute. And for the audience, though, I'm winking at you guys. You can't see it, but I'm winking because it's audio. We'll talk to you the next time.